how would you feel about the idea of recording a podcast tonight?
I think this is a good idea. I reckon. Why don't we talk about something random like the Terminator?
No. Something else from like the 80s and 90s.
Okay. What about Backdraft with Kurt Russell in?
Oh,
That's
what
a great shout. Great shout.
film.
De Niro's in that and everything, but I'm gonna pull you back. Maybe something a bit more spiritual.
Okay. Ghost with Patrick Swayze.
Oh, you're on the right line. You're on the right line,
two
James.
movies, JB, that came out in 1990. What a great year 1990 was. What a great year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe more comedy.
Oh, Mannequin. That's quite spiritual.
Yeah,
and
you're
funny.
right. You know what? You're right. Yeah, we should talk about Mannequin. Yeah.
We built this thing together.
I tell you what, can I just say that is the best movie trivia that I've done in a while.
Very good.
The fact that I
Very
was able to link to all those questions. I think I'm impressed. Is this staying in?
Yes.
Hang on. What, you reeled off 4 movies, 2 from the 90s and 2 from the 80s?
Yeah, but I had to follow Nate's lead about.
In fact, I've forgotten one of the films.
Yeah. I racked him up and he knocked him down.
Backdraft.
Ghost.
Mannequin.
There's only 3.
Oh, so there's only 3. I do beg your pardon.
Yeah, you do beg my pardon, and I will beg your pardon.
Welcome to nerdschatting.
Movie, TV, comic chat. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome everybody to the Nerdschatting podcast. My name is Nate, and with me today are my 2 very good friends, Ben and JB. How are you doing, boys?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you, Nathan. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, JB.
How are you doing? I'm good.
Yeah, all good. So, we're in our 3rd week of weekly podcasts.
Yeah.
Question mark? I've lost track of time. What day is it? Who am I? I don't know what's going on.
Is that a DeLorean that's just gone past?
Yes.
It is a DeLorean.
I don't know if that's true. I think it might be our 4th.
Anyway, so
Doesn't matter.
So last week we did a news and broken news and nerd scene, and the week before that we did a long anticipated, long awaited, long called for review of Ghostbusters with JB's opinions, because he had seen Ghostbusters for the first time in his 42nd year. So what else could we possibly do with our topic this week other than talk about Ghostbusters 2? I feel like there should have been more drama after I said it, but
yeah, whoa, yeah, Ghostbusters, all right,
cross the streams. Marshmallow Man, where are you?
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. So we've all seen it now. I mean, this is the first movie I ever saw. Oh, I should say, with the Nerdschatting, we talk about all things movies and TV shows and comic books.
Oh yeah, that's what we do.
Oh, and actually, speaking of which, Ben, next week it's our birthday, isn't it?
Oh yes, you are correct. Actually, funnily enough, it's the 19th, which is the same day as my daughter's birthday. So I won't be able to do anything then. But the day after, when we record this podcast, which I think will be the 20th, we will officially, this podcast in various guises, will be 5 years old.
So I was thinking, why don't we flip the end to the beginning? Because next week we're going to be doing a topic called Ask Us Anything, where you, the audience, get to ask us anything. So, Ben, where can people get hold of us to ask us anything?
Well, what a very good point you've made there, Nathan. Well, they can contact us on social media. They can get us on Twitter. Click on the pinned tweet on our profile, which is nerdschatting. No. It's twitter.com/nerdschatting. Just search nerdschatting. They can also find us at facebook.com/nerdschatting or instagram.com/nerdschatting. This podcast will be the pinned tweet for a couple of days, but then probably from, say, Monday, I guess.
Yeah, Monday,
the tweet will be we're doing an Ask Us Anything, and we will read out as many questions as we can that we get asked. And the topic can be anything, I guess.
Anything. And I think we should not prepare. I think we should just read them and go for it.
Oh, that's
live.
the best way. Yeah,
Bum,
do it
bum, bum, you know?
completely. Well, I might see some of them as they come in, obviously being the social media guy, but
Yep,
you know,
yep.
I'll try not to think of any responses to them, and I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be
Yeah,
fun.
empty your heads, clear your heads. Don't think of anything.
This could be
couldn't
epic
help
or
it.
hugely disastrous, guys, because maybe people won't ask us anything.
Oh, there'll be some people out there. They'll ask us some things.
Are you sure? Hashtag
we'll
boycott the
get.
questions.
We'll get some questions. Don't worry about
Cool.
it. We might not get billions, but we'll get some questions. And
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
to encourage more questions, one thing I am going to do is when it's safe to do so, we are going to give away a prize at random to one of the people who ask us a question on social media. So whether on Facebook or Instagram or on Twitter, we will take one of those people who asks us a question. It may not even be someone that we read out on next week's podcast, although we'll try and make it one of those people. And we will send them a prize. What that prize is going to be, don't know yet, but we'll send them something, and we'll send it to them when it's safe to do so. So as I say this on the 13th of May, which is a Wednesday, this podcast should be out in a day or so. It might not be safe to go and post something. So I will not post it until it's safe. So it's going to be a little while. So,
And
you know,
we should say
maybe
it'll be something nice. It won't be a Jared Leto style dead rat. It'll be a nice thing that we'll send them.
yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, damn it, that was my first choice as well.
Yeah. You go to dead rat.
Ben, you're gonna have to think of something else, mate.
Oh, God. Well, I've got a couple of options.
Now, reeling us back. After I unfortunately railroaded us with our next week's topic, let's get back. Ghostbusters 2. First movie I ever saw at the cinema, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Ben, you've seen this movie before. JB, you hadn't because you hadn't seen Ghostbusters. So,
No.
so you watched it for the first time.
Yes.
We're gonna refer back at every point here to what does JB think, because
God.
Ben and I probably have stated our feelings on this many a time. I'm going to open with, I know this movie is flawed, but I really like it.
That's because you watched it more than once.
Oh.
JB,
Okay.
what do you think of Ghostbusters 2?
Just to confirm, Ghostbusters 2 is the one with the girls in it, isn't it? Yeah?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And that's the one that I watched.
I was going to jump out the window.
Why? It's quite. I don't understand how you could have been the first film that you saw at the cinema when it was only recently released.
I tell you what, JB,
right,
you make jokes, but you've just triggered so many people with that comment, with that prank. You've triggered so many people into having very nasty thoughts about us. Let's get real here.
Why?
Let's get real.
Why?
Talking about 1989's Ghostbusters 2 here. Come on now.
Yes.
Come on now.
So, did I enjoy it? Yes, I did. Did I find it a little bit funnier than the first? I think I did.
Interesting.
I think some of the jokes landed a little bit better. I thought there was a higher percentage of hit rate on the jokes. Was the story as good? Well, actually, was it just the same?
Yes, it was.
It ain't broke, don't fix it, JB.
Well, that is true. But I like the way it got into the story pretty quick. I liked it. Flash up of 5 years later, Pram going down, seeing this disgusting ooze, the wheel going through it, and then it's not until I guess a little bit later in the story that you understand what the ooze is and how the Pram moved and was possessed. I initially thought it was the baby that was possessed.
Well, there's a link, isn't there? But yes, it is the Pram that starts it off. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
so you liked it?
I found it enjoyable. It wasn't as, I think, as Ben says, why try to fix something that's already gone and was such a phenomenon? But I don't think they recreated it as, and it's quite hard to do. But I don't think they recreated the aura. About
Yeah. I think that's fair. Ben, do you agree?
Well, just to say, there's someone who's part of the film, JB, who shares your opinion of it, and that is Bill Murray. Bill Murray liked some parts of Ghostbusters 2, but overall did not enjoy the experience of making Ghostbusters 2, and he was the reason for a long time. And there are multiple reasons. The fact that he fell out with Harold Ramis after making Groundhog Day as well was a big factor, but that's one of the reasons why he held out for so long with making a third Ghostbusters film, because he didn't enjoy his experience on the second one. He didn't think it was as it didn't reach the heights of the first movie. And bearing in mind, the first movie is a classic, it's an absolute classic. So it's going to be always very difficult to do that. But he just felt, you know what? Now we've done it. We've done a sequel. It wasn't as good. I don't want to go back anymore. Then he fell out with Howard Ramis, and that was that. But no, I genuinely like Ghostbusters 2, and I think whilst the first movie, like I said, is a classic, is iconic. It's one of those films that is pretty much in everyone's top 10, top 20 movies of all time. Ghostbusters 2, I have very fond memories of. It didn't scare the bejesus out of me because I saw it 5 years later when I was 9, I guess at this point. Was I 9? No, I was 11, I think, when I saw this one. Yeah, It came out in 89. I was 11. So I was a bit more grown up, and I just thought it was a real good time. And there are jokes in it, again, that are aimed at the adults, and I'm laughing along to them as an 11-year-old, thinking this is funny. I don't really get it, but this is funny. It's an adult joke basically. JB, what are you going to say?
I say, I don't know. I thought it was a little bit scarier, especially in the subway. The subway scene when they're kind of they're down there, and then you see all these heads on spikes. Now that actually genuinely shit me up.
Yeah, and I think Vigo is terrifying.
Yeah, he's
the fact
especially
that
when it's in the painting.
Yeah, and Janosch is scary.
Yes.
A normal, quite gentle, a bit of an idiot man gets possessed and becomes quite evil. That's for me as a kid. That was fairly intense. I was like, that could happen to anyone. Yeah.
One of the things that I miss massively in Ghostbusters 2 is that they swap out the composer. So the composer for Ghostbusters is for the love of God, it's completely gone. Elmer Bernstein. There we go. Elmer Bernstein. He swapped out with Randy Edelman for this movie, and the movie feels different because the music is so different. So gone are the dun 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 dun, all that gone out in the bin, completely gone, and it's more of a sort of a hip hoppy late 80s, early 90s. We're trying to be really cool, and this is the sort of down with the kids music that we're playing now. And I feel like the movie loses a little bit for losing Elmer Bernstein as a composer. However, I still like the music that's composed for the film, which is strange. I do like it. It's just not as catchy to me.
Do you know, it's the Jeep Cherokee Square generation. The next version of that had a rounded edge. Still a nice looking car, but it's not got that punch of the original Jeep Cherokee. It's the 21-year-old with stubble who then gets a professional job and has to wear a tie and clean shaven himself. He's all slick and smooth now. Still a nice looking guy, smart, professional, great, but he's not got that edge that he had when he was 21,
Sure.
It's grown up. It's grown up, and it's become a family. It's a bit podgy, it's a bit soft, it's a bit gentle. It hasn't got the punch of the first movie.
Sure.
It's living in the shadow of the cartoon, which was very, very popular. And Ghostbusters has become a family thing. They sold all the toys for it. It's everyone wants to see it. When the first one came out, it was like, this is some grown-ups playing silly, but it's a grown-ups movie.
Yeah.
And the second one is, this is some grown-ups playing silly, take your kids to see it.
I agree with that.
And I think it even has a different feel in terms of like color palette as well. It looks a lot softer, but that's the times, right? That it moved with the times. It was the early 80s was, let's make it as grimy as possible. And the 90s movies, and I know we're not quite in the 90s yet, but we're very close, was let's give everything a shine.
Well, yeah, massively. In the 70s and early 80s, New York and Times Square in particular was a pretty rough, nasty, grimy place. And then come the late 80s, there's millions of dollars being spent to clean up New York City, clean up the crime in New York City, clean up Times Square, make it more family orientated. It used to be just full of porno theaters and, pimps and prostitutes, things like that. That is the truth. That's the absolute truth. Watch The Juice. It's all in that. But come the late 80s, it's got this shine added to it. New York City is a cleaned up town, cleaning up the town, just like the first movie. Thank you very much.
We'll get to the story in a second and the characters, but there's a funny line when Ray and Winston come out of the party and they haven't done well and they're performing, and he says they're like yuppie lava.
Yes,
and it's that's the key there. The first movie was yuppies, and this is when those yuppies have had kids.
Yeah, very good.
And they've had to become more family oriented. I think we've laboured this point quite a lot. It's softer. I still think it's bloody funny. I still think it looks great. I still think everyone in it is brilliant. I still think it's got some good humour. It's some good stuff. So should we talk about the script, the story a little bit?
Yeah,
what we're going to talk about, Nathan, the script story.
Yeah, that.
Right,
yeah, the script story. That. Yeah.
I agree.
I think we can safely say it is a carbon copy of Ghostbusters. They start out down in their luck, not necessarily achieving as they would like to. Venkman is very much a poor scientist in bad science situations.
I find that so funny when the character is just brilliant as a talk show host. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and I laughed out loud at the end when he signs off the show.
Yeah, he's just like,
that was golden. That was brilliant. And I was kind of like, what's he doing? I was like, oh yeah.
He's such a hack.
Even he knows he's terrible. When she's giving him the dream and he turns and he's like, Valentine's Day, bummer.
Well, and he's now no longer going by Dr. Venkman. It's all Peter Venkman as well, isn't it? I feel in the first thing it was all about the Doctor and he could ride on that, and now he can't ride a wave on that, and he's got a lot older. He can't get away with the innuendos that he was able to get away with. I will just say though that it felt like all the Ghostbusters, the actors, had aged quite badly.
Yeah, perhaps.
They looked a lot. I thought they looked considerably older than they did in the first film. And what I mean by that is, just sort of like they look. I thought, I don't know, just kind of their awe about them. Something was different. I couldn't put my finger on what it was. I mean,
they'd had so much fame at that point. I mean, they'd had fame beforehand, but they were like Saturday Night Live, they were on TV, they were kind of comedians fame. At this point though, they're all like superstar movie stars. So yeah, that's going to affect them. That's going to make them that way.
Don't forget the 80s as well. JB was the decade of excess, mate.
I miss
it was more food, it was more drink, it was more drugs, it was more of everything.
It was more clothes. Clothes were huge in the 80s. The suits they used to wear.
Yeah, they were a little bit on the baggy side, weren't they? Some of them, double-breasted and all sorts. Yeah, strange.
So they're down
by the way.
Go on. Sorry,
what about the fact that the TV psychic, the first guy he speaks to, is right?
Yeah, but then that's just like the first movie, right?
Sure. Yeah, the guy who actually guesses the right shape on the card. Yeah.
So it's a carbon copy.
You're absolutely right. It is. It completely is.
And then we get Dana Barrett having a phenomenal moment and needing to call in the Ghostbusters, just like in the fridge, so on the counter in the fridge in the first one.
That happens before we're reintroduced to anyone else, though, isn't it? Yeah, Dana's down First Avenue. Yeah.
I really like that I don't know how whether we actually acknowledge it or whether we tip our hat to it. But the fact that Venkman is not a good guy.
Oh
Like,
yeah, he's a scumbag.
She totally got rid of him. She was like, no more of you, and got rid of him because he was not good material. And I quite like that it's not the Venkman show to begin with.
Mm.
Like, it's Ray and Egon get a chance to do some stuff, and they come around and they do all the inspecting of the apartment, and then we get a truly brilliant, memorable scene for me is when they dig the hole in the middle of the street and they go down to the river of slime.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
But without Venkman there, that would have never happened, and they wouldn't have been able to have. I don't think they'd have had the balls to do it. The fact when the cops rolled, the cops rocked up, Egon completely froze and needed Venkman's personality to just get them through it a little bit. Obviously, the police come back and everything else, but the stupidity of it all is fantastic, Ben.
Yeah.
I have a question. So obviously Oscar is fathered by a guy who's no longer on the scene for Dana anymore. Sorry, I'm skipping back just a little bit, guys.
Yeah.
Do we think that Dana married the stiff from the first movie?
Yeah, I always thought that she did. He did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's a musician and he got a good job in
Paris.
Vienna. Don't know.
Somewhere
One of those
else,
places.
not New York.
Yeah, not New York.
Doesn't matter. I only watched it the other night, for God's sake. Yeah, I've forgotten.
With the River of Slime, with
Slime!
Ray dangling.
It's
with
a
Ray
river of slime!
with Ray dangling there. What was your thoughts, James, when you were watching this? When you've got to this point where you've seen stuff and you think, oh, this is exactly the same, and then you're in the River of Slime moment. Were you aware of that, like, cultural impact of the River of Slime, or had you seen that before, or was that new to you?
It was completely new.
And what did you think?
Do you know what? I was kind of like, what? I was trying to work out the significance in the movie, as in, I just thought it was a big ghost of something. I thought it might have been the entrails of the Marshmallow Man, and he had a party with some pink things. I don't know. It was just gross, but actually quite funny. I quite liked it. I think that was one of the funniest scenes in the movie when they're lowering Ray down and he's got this device which just is fantastic.
It's just a scoop, but it's like a Ghostbusters scoop.
It's like
it's extra. It's so
scoop.
extra.
It's the ice cream scoop that you go when you get to thing, and you've got that little flip, a little handle, and you just flip it out. It's just a big version of that. I mean, if I went to an ice cream shop and had one of those, I'd be like, yes, that is the biggest scoop I've seen. So yeah, I didn't know much about it, and it wasn't until obviously later on through the film that in the courthouse and everything else like that, how the slime's reacting and what it means within the film.
Psychomagnepheric.
Yes,
but I think
yes.
Before that, we've already had Janosch being possessed, haven't we? Because when the lights go out, he comes and sees her. Or have I skipped ahead here?
I think I might have skipped ahead slightly. I think that's just. Oh no! When Ray is being brought up from the River of Slime, he's already been possessed because he kicks like a power cable that knocks out all the power to Manhattan Island by the looks of it.
Yeah.
And that's when he knocks on Dana's door. Dana sort of sends him packing, and his eyes light up.
Terrifying.
See, I always find that more terrifying than the later scene that we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah, actually,
because it's other, isn't it? It's not right. That shouldn't be.
Yeah,
very strange.
Very unexpected. And then this, and the reason I sort of hang on the River of Slime scene is the following scene, which for me is, I think, it might be the standout of the entire movie, the court scene. From the beginning of the court scene to when the montage starts, I really think it's fantastic.
Okay, I have a question. So the court scene is supposed to mirror the hotel scene, the Sedgwick Hotel scene from the first movie. What's the better scene, Sedgwick Hotel or the court scene?
Very good. I think I like the court scene more.
I think I do as well. And
I
I feel
do as
terrible
well.
saying that because the Cedric Hotel scene is just incredible. But I feel like the court scene, the way it ends, after you've had like 20 minutes, 30 minutes of them in the movie being like downtrodden, not successful anymore, the city sued them. They're up against this guy who basically is going to throw the book at them, this Judge Hammer, whatever he's called. I forget his name.
Oh, he's
But
great.
he's a complete jerk, isn't he? And
Yeah.
the prosecutor's absolutely out to get them as well. Lewis Tully has got no idea what he's doing in the courtroom of defending them. He's leading
I
the
love
witness. Oh, it's just so, and then they win. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I like it. I quite like it in the courtroom. It is very, very funny. I think the way that Venkman is talking to Lewis and telling him what he has to say,
Yes.
and what I also like is that it feels like the people in the courtroom are behind the Ghostbusters, and they really
Yes.
like them because Venkman, I think, at one point goes, "Well, who are you going to call?" And they're like, "Yeah," and they're on a hiding. They, as Ben says, they are going down. They're going down for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there's this little pot of like a Pyrex dish or what? Not Pyrex dish, pot or something of slime that is just bubbling over. And what I really love about it is it's not the slime that's just bubbling over, but someone's got a big hairdryer going on as well, because it's causing a whole lot of buzz going everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the ghosts come out, and from that point you know that the boys are back in town.
Yeah.
The boys are, is that the scene where they turn on the packs
Proton
and it's
packs,
like,
yeah.
"Do,
Yeah.
Ray,
Egon!
See, we're still laughing about it now, right? Like,
It was
I think
absolutely brilliant.
the tension in that scene, like, it's funny. They're definitely going down. Nothing's going right, and then the judge just goes like, just lets rip on them, and he gets building and building and building, and you see the slime bubble, like you're saying, and it's set up for later. The mood slime, like, it's great. Like, you kind of just buy it, and then the Scoleri brothers come out, and then they have to trap them and everything. And yeah, I think it's really fun, like, as well, like seeing them do it in suits.
Yeah.
Like they're the opposite of what they were.
Yeah.
And we should have known watching it that they'd have to use their proton packs because they were in the court scene. Like, why would they need to be there? They were exhibits A through F or something.
Oh, yes.
And like, here, that's why they're there. That's so that they can use them. But you don't really think about that until they then have to then use them, because otherwise it'd just be a ghost there. So it's like it's very dumb when you think about it. Like, why would they? They hadn't even used the proton packs before that scene in the movie. It was the first time we'd seen them in the movie. They just happened to be there.
Oh no, were they not in the party scene? Were they not wearing them then?
You're so right, James. You are absolutely right. Yes, they were.
Yeah, but they didn't have them when they were digging up the street, did they?
No. But I think they hadn't
anyway.
used them as Ghostbusters, but yeah.
But they,
And then you
by
get-
the sounds
then
of
you-
things,
you
they hadn't
get-
used them for 5 years. That's what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah. And then you get the montage, which is almost identical to the montage from the first movie.
What, them
Running
running
around.
through the streets of New York? I
Yeah.
think they might be wearing. I think there's a change of outfit somewhere. along
They
the
are.
lines
They're wearing
there.
darker outfits, aren't they? Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of cool. But
Yeah.
so they're growing. The storm is growing as well. We're getting things like Dana's bath has the slime come into it. The slime is coming out more. It's coming out onto the streets. The woman's coat comes alive. Those sorts of things.
That's scary.
Yeah, there is some scary stuff in this.
Mm.
And then finally you get and you get the understanding of what the slime does. And you have the scene with the toaster, Jackie Wilson.
The scene before the toaster, when they're talking about so Ray and Egon they're telling Venkman about what they're doing and what they found, and then they've obviously found the opposite of the slime as well. Is that if you speak nice to it, it will, and then there's that pause about and it's it's said but not said that did Egon sleep with the slime? I mean, is that what they were saying? Because, he was the guy that from the first movie that would just go that little bit too far. And you'd be
Tried
like,
to drill a hole through his head.
yeah.
That would have worked if you hadn't tried to stop him.
Yeah. So yes, and I think that again is hanging a lantern on it, loading the gun for the final scene with the Empire State, but sorry, the Statue of Liberty. The only way they could make the Statue of Liberty move and work for them is by putting positively charged slime in the center of it. They don't explain that. Positivity charge just means saying nice things to it, apparently.
And sleeping with it, apparently.
But what I really like is the fact that they bring out the NES controller to put in the head, the little joypad. For me, I was like, there's got to be some buttons here that makes the Statue of Liberty jump or something else like that. I'm not too sure.
It's not explained at all, but
Who cares?
I love it. Exactly. Who cares? At that point, you just get on with it. But you've got Dana. She's struggling. We know that the Janusz is after Oscar, and she moves in with Venkman.
Yep.
Another absolutely brilliant line in that movie. It's getting late. I really should put him down. Do you want to do it? Yes. You're short, your belly button sticks out, and you're a terrible burden on your poor mother.
Oh, brilliant.
That took me years to get. Years. Because as an adult, I'm not going to get it.
No, you're not. And you don't have any humor either. You just don't get humor.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And then we get the Vigo and the slime are linked, and we know that he's trying to get hold of her from using the slime and using the energy, and then she's trapped in the museum, and he wants to be reborn anew, much like Gozer wants to come back from the spirit land or wherever. So then we get the Statue of Liberty scene, which is just Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but like flipped on its head. A giant thing walking through New York streets, but a good thing.
Well, it's symbolic, isn't it? The point here, the point through all of this movie, from what I can understand, is that people were, or I think because Dan Aykroyd wrote it, didn't he, with Harold? My thoughts are that they must have thought that the place was quite a horrible place, and this is the basis of the movie, and the only way that you can get through this is by having some sort of object that everyone can believe in, the Statue of Liberty, and bring people together, and then make everyone happy and get on, and that's how we're going to defeat evil. It's pretty simple but effective.
Yeah, and it's another statement, like how the film has softened. In the first film, the giant thing that comes is the manifestation of Ray's fears, like deepest fears and worries. And you're absolutely right, JB. The giant thing in this is a manifestation of all that's good and great and positive. Mm-hmm. So it's like it needs to be a story for families. So the big thing isn't a bad thing. The big thing is a good thing in this one. Mm-hmm. And then they have just the ridiculous fight at the end, which is just Ray sort of gets possessed, but maybe not. And then they have the slime, and then maybe they just fire their proton packs at the painting until Vigo's head explodes. Who knows what happens? It doesn't make any sense.
They also dump loads of positive slime on him as well. So I guess it sort of reverses the polarity of him in some way, to use a Doctor Who phrase.
I think it's the positronic metrics that it has to diversify against.
They definitely don't have a crossing the streams moment, though, do they?
No,
there's not that power.
No, and you can't possibly use your, if you get out a jail free card, you can't cross the streams again. I mean, maybe they should have tried it. I don't know. But maybe,
blown up the entire New York public
museum.
Yeah, maybe.
Art.
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
So, it's the same movie, right? It's the same plot. We haven't talked about okay, so we'll get to the next bit. This next bit I've put on here is standout scenes. So some things that are stand out. No, we talked a little bit about it. The opening in the streets. You talked about that. The courtroom, River of Slime.
Yep.
Statue of Liberty. We haven't talked about when they go into. I know James, you mentioned this briefly earlier, but when they actually go down again into the underground.
Yes.
And
Oh,
there's like the train that goes through Winston, and they see the heads and the spikes, and then they eventually find the River of Slime again and get pulled into it.
Yep.
And I think you're spot on, JB. I think that whole sequence is terrifying.
Yep.
It's actually scary. And maybe the people listening to this who are more accustomed to horror movies will say, "Oh, you big scaredy cats. It's absolutely fine." But I actually think it takes a shift.
Yeah, it's a knee-jerk moment in the movie when they're doing the echo thing down the tunnel, and Winston does it last of all.
Yeah,
and his echo doesn't come back; it's swallowed up, and then his name is said back to him by this really deep, otherworldly voice, and then the music goes down, and like, oh, hang on, this feels a bit odd. I don't like this. And then all the heads appear, and then the train goes past as well. Poor Winston is absolutely petrified, but it's. I think Egon says it. We must be getting close because someone's trying to keep us away, basically. So they know they're getting close to this River of Slime again. It's a great scene. It really is. I wouldn't show it to my 11-year-old, if I'm honest with you. I don't think she can handle it. I don't think she'd like that very much at all. Certainly not my 7-year-olds. But it is a knee-jerk moment in the film because it's all ghosts and they've got proton packs and they can get them. But these guys down there, they don't have their
safe, do they? No,
they don't feel safe. They're being terrorized, and then suddenly they end up in the River of Slime, absolutely dumped in it.
And I think that's another scary as a kid is another scary thing, but on reflection as opposed to in the moment. But when they come out of the manhole cover and they're covered in the slime and they start fighting, and it's like it changes them. And I think anything like that for me as a kid was a bit like they're not them anymore. That something's changed, and they strip off and they're like, oh, okay, no, they're not. They're it's the slime that's making them. And then it becomes funny, and they go to the restaurant, and I mean that when they go to the restaurant and they're having Pinkman and Dana are having a date, and they're trying to get them to come with them straight away, and he's like, "Yeah, well, the River Slime's running all over the city. It's heading straight to the museum," and he flings his hand.
All everywhere.
Yeah, it's great. Then they get arrested as well.
There's a follow up to that. There's a follow up to that when they get arrested. When Dana goes home, Janine and Lewis are obviously looking after baby Oscar, and Janine says, you know, where's Peter? And Dana just goes, oh, he got arrested, and she just goes, typical. It's just such a throwaway line. But the editing is done so well that, you know, Dana says it so flippantly, and then the reply is so flippant. It's just like, oh, well, these guys get arrested all the time. It's just part of the job, really. They'll be all right. Move on.
Did you have any other standout scenes other than the ones we've mentioned on here that you wanted to talk about particularly?
I don't think so. I think the big ones were I think the big one for me was the courtroom. It was like the boys are back. Here we go. And that kickstarts it again. But I think Ben's already mentioned we've already mentioned the subway scene. That is quite scary. I guess one of the scenes that I find a bit awkward, and I don't know if this has come from the cartoon, is Lewis and Janine getting together. That's a bit sort of, for me, was a bit like, did that have to happen? I'm not sure.
I agree. Ben, I'll come to you in a second. I know you've got a point to make, but I found Janine a really different character in this, and they really changed her. Whereas, you know, in the first one where she's I don't think of her as ditzy. I think of her as just enamored by Egon. Whereas in this one, I find they've almost made her into this stupid character.
Yeah, like a clown.
She's much more like a clown. And I think her trying to seduce Lewis is funny, but I don't think that she would have tried to.
No.
Her taste in men is Egon.
Yeah.
And we know we know she's met him, Lewis, before. When he was the Keymaster.
Yeah.
So I agree, JB. It is a little bit forced.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ben, what were you going to say?
Oh, you were asking about standout scenes. It's
Yes.
I don't know if you could call it a scene. It's a small part of the scene where Dana lets Egon and Ray into the apartment, and then Peter turns up as well, and she's not expecting him. Right at the start of the film, before the courtroom scene, before they've dug the hole in First Avenue, when he sort of barges in, and Dana's sort of, like, "Hello, Peter," and he sort of turns around, and he goes, "Hello, Dana," like that, in a really sort of like sultry voice.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is Bill Murray at his absolute goddamn best, because that wasn't in the script. That was improv. I mean, it might have been in the script, but I'm sure it was improv.
Well, let's bring it down to the next section, which is talking about the different characters, and Peter's right at the top of the list. Do you think he's as much of the star of this movie as he was in the first one?
Yes, I mean, I think so. We should probably be asking JB. I think he is, because it's still Peter's movie to a degree, because he sort of saves the day, because he saves Dana and he saves Oscar, and however, I think they made a more concerted effort in this film to give all of the Ghostbusters more things to do. Egon more things to do, Ray more things to do, certainly Winston more things to do.
Yeah.
Because most of Winston's stuff was taken off of him and given to Venkman in the first movie. So I still think Venkman stands out, but it's more of an ensemble piece, this movie, I think.
JB, what did you think about it?
I kind of agree with what Ben's saying for most of it. I felt that Egon was more in this film than the first one. I don't know. I don't really have anything to back that up, but it's just talking about the scene when they go into Dana's house. I quite like the when they're checking out Oscar. I think that's quite funny. They're both very, very, very awkward. I think Venkman is still the same sort of guy, but I think it feels like that he's still a cocky prick. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But he's aged, and things haven't necessarily gone his way, and it feels like he obviously regrets being an ass, and that he's no longer with Dana. There's a scene where they're talking about it and why you left me, and I wanted to be wanted, or something like this. And she said, I think she says something like, "Well, you referred to me as the ball and chain, and at that point I left." And I think he always likes to cross that line, and was able to get away with it. But Dana, it feels like, was like, "I'm not dealing with this anymore, mate. You're done. I'm out." And from that point, I think it feels like he was on a massive downward spiral, and that's why he's got his crappy TV show. Ben?
Well, there's a really lovely scene when Venkman's collecting a stool sample from Oscar, where he sort of looks at him and then sort of frowns, but then he says to him quite sweetly and gently, I could have been your father. I should have been your father. And it's there and it's gone, and it lasts 5 seconds, but it's almost like a moment of regret that the character has, and admits to this baby who cannot understand him or talk back to him. So it's almost like he's talking to himself, and he's like saying, I kind of did it wrong. I did it wrong, and I should have done it differently. But it's a lovely little scene that sort of that highlights the fact that he does have this regret, that he was a jerk, that he did treat Dana as the old ball and chain. And he does wish things had gone slightly different in his life. And I think he's definitely grown as a character over the 5 years. His experiences will definitely make him grow, but he's not so much the flamboyant showman anymore as the flamboyant business-like leader.
I don't know about that. I'm going to slightly disagree, because I think the wind has been taken out of his sails at some point, but then once the Ghostbusters are back and he comes out of the courtroom, it's like he's gearing everyone back up again. He's got everyone. Everyone's back on side, and he can play to the crowd again.
But you say that, JB. The first time he came out in the first movie, came out of the ballroom, and he's screaming, "We came, we saw, we kicked it." In this one, he doesn't come out with swear words, and he's not screaming. He comes out and he says in a loud voice, but in a very corporate-like way, "We're the best, We're the beautiful. We're the only Ghostbusters, and it's almost like a rebrand of them. It's like a new slogan for them. He's more businesslike in this film.
I think the word I would use for him is humble. He's got a bit more humility about him. When they go on a date later in the movie, he has a way about him that suggests he wants to make up for wrongs he's done.
Yeah. I firmly believe that.
Yeah. I think Ben might be running a tap.
I think he might be running a tap, or he's just taken
Yeah.
a wee. What do you think?
Let's say we. It was definitely a we.
It was definitely a wee.
Let's come back and drink my own piss. Sorry.
Oh my god.
So,
oh, wow.
So I think we've talked about Peter a bit there, and interesting that you, JB, you said you thought it was Egon's movie. I actually think it's Ray's movie, and I think it probably is a bit of both of theirs. More so than Venkman's. They're the professionals. I feel like they have more to do. Ray's down in the River of Slime. Egon figures stuff out.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the two of them have a much more to do than just be the sciencey nerds to keep Venkman going.
Yep, I agree, and I think you can tell that they're still friends. They keep in close quarters. Egon still feels like they've, even through the 5 years, they were meeting up regularly. They're still doing the work. Egon's back at his academic level and is working at a uni. And Ray's doing whatever he's doing, but keeping himself, tapped into to that work. And then Venkman just kind of it's like Venkman's like their drunk mate. He just rocks up, and they're like, "Yeah, you're all right, Venkman. It's nice to see you." Like, kind of just fob him off. You're a bit of a dick.
So I like the fact that Ray has an occult bookstore. Yeah, because it sort of leads into a lot of what the actual actor's family were like in his past. So Dan Aykroyd's family were like his grandfather and his father and his great grandfather and all these sorts of people were massively into the occult.
Yeah, well, so Dan Aykroyd is as well, isn't he?
Hugely. He's a believer completely. Yeah. So it's just like, okay, well, the ghost busting didn't work out. What would this character do? Do you know what? He still believes. He's obviously always been a believer. He does this now, and that sort of feeds in from my family's history. So yeah, that's definitely what he does. He sells occult books. Strange.
Strange. We've talked quite a lot about all of them, the main characters. We haven't really mentioned Lewis very much. Do you want to talk about him a little bit?
It's comic relief, isn't he?
Yeah. Go on, but what are you thinking?
Well, I was just going to say it's more of that sort of family fun thing. It's almost like it's for the kids.
Yeah. What am I trying to say? I guess Lewis feels a bit like I said about his relationship with Ginny. He feels a bit shoehorned into the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it could have been. He could have quite easily not been in the movie, and there are a couple of scenes that are just a little bit pointless. Him at the end trying to use the proton pack to get in, and then he does it. I guess his journey is that he always wanted to be a Ghostbuster.
Yeah, it's a whole pointless story arc. It doesn't make any sense. If you just left him as being their attorney, their lawyer in the courtroom, it would have been worked fine. It would have been almost a perfect cameo. It almost feels like those scenes don't need to be in the movie. They're not. You can cut them out, right? You can cut the whole.
I mean, you could have. I guess in some way it was great him attempting to be the lawyer, and I like the build up to that like I said, that courtroom scene. But other than that, for me, he could have not been in any other scenes, and I probably wouldn't have thought about it.
Yeah, agreed. So there's another character called Hardmayer, who is Walter Peck in this movie. He is the Walter Peck character.
Yeah.
But he is a diluted weak ass version of Walter Peck, isn't
Yes,
he?
he is. Yep, he absolutely is. He absolutely is. Um, and he's also a Stanley Butkiss to the
The mayor.
mayor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas Walter Peck wasn't really that. He was. What I liked about the Walter Peck character was he was doing his job, and he had
Yeah.
every right to do it, but he was just an arsehole.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Whereas this guy, you feel he's the villain in this, in that he is just trying to do anything to get to his position, not actually be good at his job.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a shame because I think the actor's actually a good actor, and I think he's got comic timing about him.
Yes.
And I quite like the actor, and I quite like what he does with the character. The character is just shit.
Yeah. It's
Um,
just they need again. I think a theme running through this review is shoehorn. They've had to put someone in there that's going to be an antagonist against the Ghostbusters and
Yeah.
not give them that opportunity to get to the mayor, because the mayor is, what was he going? He's going for governor now, isn't he?
yeah,
So
But
he
the
wasn't
thing
up
is,
for re-election.
it's ridiculous because in the first scene, the mayor believes in them and gives them a chance, and then they achieve what he gives them a chance to do. So at no point would he ever really be against the Ghostbusters. So you're right, it's just shoehorned in to put in an extra barrier for the story, for the plot, for us to go, oh, they can't get straight to the mayor. It almost, I think it might almost have just felt better if they had a hotline to the mayor, if they could have just said, we need to talk now, and he said, yes, come into my office, of course, anytime for you guys. Something, just give them a little bit. I don't know.
Probably, maybe, but I think the opposite of that for me would be the story where they got sued by everybody, and the mayor hung them out to dry. That's the story. So he's going to be like, well, they've not been around. There's not been any ghosts for ages. Why do I need them in my life, etc. So just push them away. So yeah, but yeah, I think
it's just a weak character, isn't he?
It is a little bit, yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the two villains, proper villains, Janosch and Vigo. What do you guys think of Janosch as a character before his possession and then after? Ben, do you have thoughts?
Well, first things first. The chap who plays Janosch is Peter McNichol. That's the chap.
Yeah.
In 2020, is it slightly crossing the line for him to portray the character the way he does in the movie, sort of putting on a very generic, dodgy European, nondescript accent and not being that at all? He's just an American guy in real life. Listen, Peter McNichol is a fantastic actor. Some of his lines that he delivers in the film are fantastic. If you've ever seen him in Ally McBeal, he had a big part in that. He was incredible in that TV show. And he was in the first Mr. Bean movie as well, and he was a perfect straight man next to Rowan Atkinson. He's a great actor. I just think that he's used oddly in this movie. Why does he have to be this strange, quirky European guy? Why couldn't he just be a strange, quirky American guy? Maybe it would have been too close to Lewis Tully at that point. I don't know. But I just think it's an interesting decision that they made, going, right, we're going to make this guy a European guy. We're going to get in an American actor. I don't know why they didn't just get in a European actor to sort of play him the way with an accent, but get in an American guy, get him to do this strange accent, get him to be a little bit sort of over the line, a bit touchy-feely in the workplace, a little bit creepy, and then, we're just going to possess him.
It feels a bit Saturday Night Live. It feels like he would have been. He may even have done that character on Saturday Night Live. Do you know? It feels like a stand-up nonsense character that they've kind of just shoehorned in.
Yeah, or Second City in Chicago or something like that. Yeah, but I mean, listen, it was 88, 89. It was a different time. Yeah, he's fine. He's great in it. It was a completely different time. Now, this movie's made now. That guy is not that guy. That character isn't in it, or if he is in it, he's played by someone who is of that ethnicity, of that race. He's not played by a red-headed American guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. JB, what did you think?
I kind of everything that Ben said. It reminded me when I first saw this character. It reminded me of Borat in some way.
Yeah.
And so I'm not really too sure what the point of it is. It is an almost exact. Apart from the voice, it's an exact replica of Lewis in that he has eyes for Dana and wants to be Dana. In fact,
Wants to be Dana.
wants to be with Dana, beyond Dana.
Yeah.
And I think it sums up in the scene where she's cleaning up the painting about he asks her out a date and she says no, I can't, and he's like, well, you always tell me, is it because I've got bad breath or something like this? And she's like, no, and then she's just like does a face as if she can
Just
smell
not
bad breath.
interested in you.
Yeah.
So
maybe yes, Ben, yes.
Sorry.
Exactly that. I couldn't have summed that up any better.
But then it's a shame. He almost. If I feel like if he'd been a nice guy, and Dana had been interested in him, I mean, you couldn't have done that because then you couldn't have done the Pete Venkman and Dana coming back together. But maybe you could have had a friend of Dana's working there, and Janusz could have been a nice guy, and we wanted him to be a nice guy.
Yeah.
Then when he's possessed, that makes him a much more compelling character. But if you really think he's creepy and horrible beforehand, and then he gets possessed, and then he's creepy and horrible, he doesn't change.
No.
He's just creepy and horrible. So I think maybe now they would have made him into a character that could have had an arc, as opposed to just
you didn't. He didn't need to have. Did he need to be interested in Dana? Because I guess the story is linked through Dana, Oscar wanting and then him wanting to, or Vigo having to get Oscar.
Yeah, true.
But you didn't. But you didn't need. I don't think you need that to happen.
No.
I don't think you need Janos to be a lover or to be lechy over Dana.
But you almost could have just had that as part of his possession, because later on he's like you could be the mother, we could be husband and wife and we could learn. But that could have just been a part of Vigo saying you will marry her, and that would have been enough. So I think Janos is an interesting choice in lots of different ways. I think interesting as in some mistakes were made, but it worked. But there are ways I would have done it differently. And finally,
don't skip on yet though. You haven't really spoken enough, as far as I'm concerned, about Janos as a ghost.
Oh no, yeah, we haven't. Yes, so nanny Janos.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's very strange because we've never seen that in these movies before, where a possessed person becomes a ghost. Is that Janos? That is, isn't it? She says Dana says it's Janos.
Yeah, it looks like Janos with a wig,
but as a nanny, and then it stretches its arm out and grabs Oscar. It's a very weird moment. It feels a little bit tack it on quickly, because how else is she going to grab the baby?
Yeah.
Yeah, they felt they wrote themselves into a corner, didn't know what to do with themselves there, or they had it a different way. Or
Dan Aykroyd and Harold were just having a beer and went, oh, bugger it, let's just do this.
Yeah, he just appears as a nanny in the sky, and that might even be a joke. It might even be an in-joke. It might be like Mary Poppins or something. That's basically what it is. But
yes, but I didn't see it as a joke. I just thought it was a bit weird.
Yeah, and really terrifying.
Yeah.
And so the last
scene.
The last character to talk about is Vigo. What did you think of Vigo as a bad guy, JB?
Do you know what I quite liked? I quite liked it as a bad guy. I mean, I found it really difficult to hear what he was saying, and it could be just because I'm getting old. But when he was kind of in the picture, and I don't think I first saw that the slime was in the picture as well. I think, but I liked it. He was scary. He was definitely scary. And I quite like I quite like the story and the build up for that. When he comes out of the picture and they're all fighting, and he's just walking around, in his medieval type of gear.
Yeah,
Brilliant. I like that. I thought that was great. Actually,
Do you know who voiced him, JB? Do you know who voiced him?
no, I don't.
Nathan, you know who voiced him, don't you?
yeah. It was he died this year, didn't he, or was it last year?
Max von Sydow.
Yeah,
Oh, that's. Hang on a minute.
he
Do
was
I
in
know?
the opening of the Force Awakens.
Yes, he was. Yes.
And
Yeah.
he was the Exorcist in The Exorcist.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I
Nice.
I think it's quite clever that they make a villain out of a painting.
Yes.
Like he's not actually a villain until right at the end. Before that, he's just a picture.
Well, you don't know too much about his backstory, do you?
No.
As the paint. I mean, I thought the painting bit where his face comes out of the painting as well.
Yeah, where it like bubbles out. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, excuse me. But yeah, I quite liked all the scenes that with Vigo in, actually, apart from the bit where I couldn't really hear very well, so I had to rewind it and put the subtitles on. Sorry. True story.
Quite all right. I thought you'd have the subtitles on anyway. You love watching films with subtitles
Yeah,
on.
most of the time. I thought I was going to be brave this time. Mistake. Never again.
I've got another little bit of IMDb trivia for you. The chap who actually plays Vigo,
Yes.
so not voices him, that's Max von Sydow, but the guy who actually plays him, Wilhelm von Homburg. He was one of the bad guy terrorists in Die Hard. There you go.
Is it him? Is it that guy? The one that they hang? The one that gets he gets hung by a chain in Die Hard?
No. It's not Carl. It's a different sort of. I don't really think he has a speaking part. I think he's in one of the scenes, like right at the start when the terrorists break into Nakatomi, and he breaks into an office and he's walking down the corridor towards where John McClane is, and he goes into the office, but John McClane's already left. But there you go. He's in that movie. There you go.
Interesting.
There you go.
So the other two things I had in here were humour and effects, and I think we've talked a little bit about the humour. It's definitely softened, but there are some good jokes in there, and I think we've probably talked about that to death. We've hit some of the jokes. What do we think about the effects in the movie? Like, do we think that they? Okay, here's some questions. Have they improved from the first movie? And if they have, for the better or worse? And one of the questions I asked in the first movie was, were they consistent, the ghost effects? So throwing that out to you guys.
I saw some issues with the River of Slime the first time you see Ray near it. I think some of the CGI looks a little bit. Well, I mean, it is dated. It was in 1989. It's pretty ropey by today's standards, but you can see the lines in it a little bit, and it's a bit. Oh, I'm not so sure. I think they had a lot more time in this movie to get the effects right, because in the first movie they had to set up their own studio and they had 10 months and they were doing effect shots here, there and everywhere and yada yada yada, and they were like, most of it was first cuts. I think in this movie they certainly seem to have a lot more time, and a lot of the practical effects as well, like the painting that bubbles out, or even where the eyes where they follow Dana and then you got the smirky smile and then Dana quickly looks at it and it's gone. That is really, really well done. It's really well done. But there are a couple of little bits and pieces with the River of Slime, and especially when they're in it and they're sort of drifting away, that look really ropey in 2020. They really do. They really do.
My thoughts are, I think the effects were better, but I think the magic of the first film was that the special effects. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to say they were tacky, because they weren't. They were still fantastic. But there was something. There's something different, and I'm not sure. Again, I can't describe what it is. I think it feels too polished in Ghostbusters 2. So I'm thinking, like, when the Titanic rocks up, I was like, actually, that looks pretty good.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking sorry. Go on.
No, go on.
I was going to say that the Scoleri brothers in the courtroom, I always thought they looked a bit weird, because it's like they were almost trying to be human figures, but they were then also had like Slimer faces. So that was somewhere between things. And then you had like the runner. Do you remember there's a jogger in the montage scene? And then there's like an invisible ghost in the montage scene. I feel like they've just thrown in loads of different ideas and not really stuck with one. And they've still got Slimer in it. Yeah,
Slimer's in there randomly in the firehouse, isn't he? I quite like the Scoleri brothers bit. But you're right. It's kind of, they're not human. They're not ghosty. What are they? type of, I don't know.
Yeah.
But look good. Like we said, the courtroom scene was
I like the look of
the best.
I like the look of the Scoleri brothers. I mean, they seem like they're larger than humans. Like when they lift up the table and they're hiding under, which is like the worst place to hide in the world. When they're hiding underneath the table, they look massive, don't they? They look absolutely huge, like they're twice the size of an actual human being. But I think they look good, and they were actually played by real people. Like I don't know how it was done.
They look a bit like what they might be drawn if they were in the cartoon.
Yes,
that's kind of how I feel they look.
That's good.
I think this film straddles between trying to be realistic horror and then cartoony horror. I think the Ghost Train, that looks pretty good. I thought.
Yeah, Statue of Liberty was pretty good.
Say again? Oh, Statue of Liberty. Yeah.
I actually thought when the scene where when she first moves and takes the foot comes off. I thought that was pretty good. I thought I liked that, and I actually liked the walking through the streets of New York as well. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I do think generally they did a good job on this. I think it's that if it was cheap looking, it might not have stood the test of time that it has. I think people give it a hard time because it's polished, and it's not the same. It's not the first one, but yeah. So I don't have much more to say about Ghostbusters 2. Do you guys have much more to say?
I think it's a solid. I think it's a solid follow-up to an absolute classic. If the first Ghostbusters movie is like a 9 out of 10 movie, this is like a solid 7 out of 10 for me.
Ooh.
It doesn't quite reach the same heights, but it's got really good bits. It's funny. It's heartwarming. It's scary in places. Not terrifying scary, but jumpy. And it's like I said, it's more of an ensemble piece, more of the characters interacting, and it's nice to be back with them after 5 years. I feel.
Yeah, I was going to say that that's one of the nice things about it is to be spending more time with them. Whether the plot is any good or not doesn't matter. Almost, you're just happy to be spending more time with these people.
Yeah, it's nice to see how they've moved on. It's walking down memory lane. It's a little bit of nostalgia and reliving the good times.
and that's why Ghostbusters 3 is leaning so heavily into that, I think. And the trailer that we've seen for Ghostbusters 3 or Ghostbusters Afterlife is leaning heavy into that nostalgia element. And here's a little bit of trivia for you. The boy that says that has a go at them at the party is Jason Reitman.
Oh, that's Ivan Reitman's son.
Yes, who is directing and writing Ghostbusters Afterlife.
There you go. Really?
Yeah, there you go.
And I think says you're full of crap. Yeah.
I think Ghostbusters Afterlife is going to be like all this. It's going to just lean into all of that feeling of warm blanket because of these characters that you know and love. And I think we're going to see the characters we know and love in different guises in the new one.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I think what I mean is that you'll see an Egon type character. You'll see a Ray type character, a Venkman type character. That's what I think we'll end up seeing. So, Ghostbusters 2, good fun movie.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, I've done it. Am I have I moved up higher on your friend list now, Nate?
I am impressed, JB. I'm genuinely impressed. But then see, I always knew you would. When set a target like this, when set a test of watching something, of mainlining something, I know you can achieve it.
Yeah, I know I can. And you're not motivating me in this way. That's true. I'm not like a little puppy dog where I'm going to get my doggy treats now. But yeah, I am glad I've seen both of these movies now. Mainly because if there are any film quizzes that I'm a part of or a pub quiz, and if anything comes up, I should now be able to answer them.
Yeah.
I hope I'll be able to remember and answer them.
Ben, this is where I would normally say take us home, but you have already taken us home at the beginning. But let's do it again, just for consistency's sake.
Yes, I can remind people. So we are available. We are the Nerds Chatting. We are available to interact with on social media. So you can get us at twitter.com/nerds chatting or facebook.com/nerds chatting or instagram.com/nerds chatting. You can also send us an email, which is nerdschatting@outlook.com. This podcast is available on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, which is youtube.com/nerds chatting. nerdschatting.podbean.com, where we keep all of our podcasts, absolutely every single one, all 5 years worth, all available online for you to listen to. But for the love of God, don't go back and listen to the first one, because it's dreadful, and I'm not even on it.
The worst thing ever. It's not until we actually become Nerds Chatting is it really worth listening to.
Sure.
And even then,
is that a true story? What was your first one like?
it's just a horrible conversation. Let's not talk about it, because people will go and find out. People will
for
go
the
and
love
listen
of
to it,
God.
take it off.
Do it. No, that should be
Don't.
some of the questions. You know, think
Yeah.
as soon as it went from you guys to, and me included, it's gone up. Everyone loves it. Everyone loves it.
Sure.
Yeah, so
Sure.
there you go. Good trial for next week. Next week we're doing the 5-year birthday of Nerds Chatting, and you can ask us anything and we will respond, even if it's just with a grunt. So all that's left for us to say is thanks so much for listening.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Bye bye now.